Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon is a company run by Joe Ross. We appreciate Higher Echelon sponsoring us. We also have a official photographer for the Black Knight Nation now, Larry Pickett and his company. I will give you the website there in a little bit. We know the story about Larry and his son, LJ, saving a person from a burning car last Saturday. And a week later, Army pulls off an upset over Kansas State. Some good football vibes going there as I see it. And we have a group to talk about Army's 24-21 win over Kansas State last night. We have Cuthbert from Army sideline. Cuthbert, where are you from? Let me get that right. Let me clear the air.
So I live in Greater Tampa at the moment in Florida. And just for the record, because this does happen sometimes on Twitter, I did not attend the academy. My father attended the academy. He was class of 58. That's where my fandom comes from. I am a civilian.
You're from Sidelines Army.
Yes, Sidelines Army.
Sidelines Army. Seth Mendelson from Black Knight Nation and Steve Anderson is back. 2-year captain on the Army football team, 2010 Army team that won the Armed Forces Bowl. Original OG here on the Black Knight Nation podcast, and we're going to talk the big win for Army. We appreciate everybody joining us. If you're joining us now and you have any comments, send us your way. I believe you can super chat us your comment too if you like to send some money to Black Knight Nation or donate whatever. I think there's super chat on YouTube now that we're subscribers. We're over 1,300 subscribers on YouTube. It's been crazy, and we really appreciate all the support. And wow, I mean, I really wanted to go live last night, guys, after the game. I didn't care if it was midnight. I didn't care if it was 1 o'clock, but my laptop would not charge and would not cooperate. So here we are a day later, but still, I mean, the Black Knight Nation feeds are still going crazy. What I've seen a lot of comments of is the locker room after the game, and Coach Monken's, I want to fight. I'm going to fight. That we've seen that in the past with teams with a big win. And my opinion, I'm just going to start off. This is the biggest win of Jeff Monken's time at Army. That's not a CIC game. I think this is the biggest win. I mean, over a Power 4 team, it's his biggest win over a Power 4 team, I think. Some might say the bowl game against Missouri. I don't know. Maybe get some initial thoughts here. A huge win for Army. There's so many heroes. There's so much to go over. We'll get to it. But first, let's get an opening thought from Cuthbert real quick.
I would agree that I think this is maybe Jeff Monken's biggest win at Army apart from the CIC. This would maybe be on par with the winning of the American Championship last year. This is just absolutely incredible. I said in a post today on Twitter, are we back? I mean, I think we're as back as we can be, because unlike last year where I felt like we were really playing from a position of strength because we were such a dominant team in so many ways, this is starting to feel like a more typical Jeff Monken team that really is fighting from behind through grit and determination and just, frankly, just toughness. And to do what the team was able to do yesterday, it really just speaks volumes.
Yeah, no doubt. Seth, we'll go to you.
Okay, I agree. This was a tough team. It showed the grit that they showed at the end of the first half, going for it. Monken going for it on 4th and was it 2, with no time left. Down to the last play of the half. He made it clear that this is Army football, and 3 points did really nothing, as he said in the press conference yesterday. They had to go for 7, and they got it. And then in the second half, it was like a different team showed up from that last drive of the first half to the rest of the game. It was a different team from what I saw in the first half, the rest of the first half against Kansas State, and also last week against Tarleton. The offensive line came alive and was very good. Our new quarterback, Cale Helms, I don't know whether he's starting 2 weeks from now or not, but this was like a Bryson Daly mini-me. He emerged, threw the ball nicely, short passes, but that's all we needed. Ran the ball great. Noah Short did what he had to do, the option pass. As you guys are saying before, 1-1. Who thought the Army would be, would lose to Tarleton, but who thought they would beat Kansas State? And we're right back where we are supposed to be. A week off to recover from some injuries, and then let's go into the American.
Steve Anderson, your initial thoughts on the big win?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, other than the AAC and the CIC, probably the biggest win during Monken's tenure. I just think that, it's to go from last week to this week to see these guys play. I mean, I don't know. Helms had, 30 plus carries.
41.
Yeah. And just the grit in that guy, the whole team, I felt like last week we were, it looked like the first time we were playing, and it was the first time you're playing against somebody else, right? Kind of feeling out more than this week. This week, I mean, the guys, there was no lack of confidence. There was no kind of the feeling out of the game. It was they knew what to expect. And they executed. And you don't turn the ball over. I'm sure they heard about it all week last week. Hey, we're not turning the ball over again. All right, you turn the ball over, we don't have a shot. So you don't turn the ball over, you win. Defense on fire. Just lights out there in the second half, and just really fun to watch an Army team with that grit. With so many new faces this year. You love to see that junior class, now senior class, kind of continue that mentality. And I'm sure there was some accountability at the player level last week that said, hey, we got a chance to right the ship now. So let's do that.
You know what, Steve, I wanted to talk to you about this because it says a lot about the leadership on this team when you lose the opener FCS team in double overtime and you bounce back and put forth an effort. Forget what the score was. Forget what the score they won. Great. But the effort that the team, that was Army football out there last night against Kansas State. And you look at, it's not the two captains, Caleb Fortner and Andon Thomas. Awesome. Great leadership, right? But the guys that are also seniors, the Noah Shorts, the Will Jeffcoats on the offensive line that maybe you'll hear a lot about. Those guys keeping it together. Casey Larkin. Casey Larkin played like he wanted to hurt somebody yesterday. He wanted to hit somebody really hard yesterday. He was playing at a really high level. And when you play at a high level and you're one of the leaders and Steve, you were there when you play at a really high level, that oozes off to the rest of the defense, and the rest of the younger guys say, okay, let's go. I don't know if that's what I saw, at least. I don't know if that's what you saw. And maybe you could tell us a little bit from your leadership on the football team.
West Point's an interesting school, right? Because you're a leader of leaders. So there's only 4 guys that are going to wear the C on the chest, but all of those guys have it within them to be captains, to be leaders, to be informal leaders, which makes it so unique. And just to your point, the Noah Shorts, the guys that don't wear the C on their chest, but they have a responsibility and accountability at their position group, or they have a responsibility on special teams. They know their place, they know where they can make a difference. And they have to, because you can't rely on your captains to hold everybody accountable. You got to have those informal leaders, and kind of what you got to, and what I said earlier is you love seeing that continue from last year's team. Last year it was expected. A lot of returning seniors, a lot of great well-known players all throughout different position groups. This year, new faces, new guys. Kind of, the one question mark is, are we going to have a quarterback, that can kind of come out of the shadow, so to speak, or make his mark? And I think we saw that on Saturday.
Incredible. Real quick before any other comments, I was on Instagram before the podcast and I saw Noah Short. There's a photo out of Jeff Monken, like to one knee after the game, and just say, he finally got one. Army finally got a game under Jeff Monken against a Power 4 team on the road. They had the close calls early in his career against, Miami, Michigan, and Oklahoma. And, I don't know if it's like now a relief, a pressure off Jeff Monken, but he was on one knee, and you see Noah Short there with his hand on his back saying it's okay. I don't know what he was saying, but he was comforting Coach Monken during that time. That tells you a little bit about the relationship between players and coaches, and that's why I was talking about Noah Short with leadership.
I asked Monken at the press conference about that because I didn't see him on one knee, but I saw him walking off the field. ESPN had him on as right after the game ended, and he looked so happy but so relieved. And I asked him about that, and what he said was, I expect him to say what you just said, which was, we almost beat Oklahoma, we almost beat Michigan, Penn State going back 4 or 5 years before that. He didn't. What he said was the loss to Tarleton State was a burden on him and the team, and he carried it all week. And I really think that that Tarleton State, on one hand, took a lot out of the Army team. On the other hand, I think is responsible for this win because these kids wanted to show that they're a lot better than what they the first game of the year. He said that. I was surprised because I thought he would say, "Yeah, well, I finally got my big win. I finally beat a Power 4 team, a named Power 4 team. We're not talking about Duke or Wake Forest here. We're talking about a team that is in the running to win the Big 12. Supposedly, we'll see what happens." And he didn't. He said Tarleton State took something out of him. He carried around all week, and look what happened.
Yeah. Just great to see him being, I don't know, just being kind of what's the right word, Seth? I'm looking for a word here that just he's kind of, it's real, very real and very genuine about what happened.
Authentic.
There you go, Steve. I see. We got to get you to write on this website now. We got to, we need a little writing in here. Let's just go over. Let's get to the comments real quick because then we can go over the heroes and the plays and all kind of break that stuff down. Barry Tenney says college football final debated on giving a helmet sticker between Helms and Matson, although multiple players deserved it. Thoughts on keeping Cale as QB1 and running an offense like last year? Cale Helms did get a helmet sticker from ESPN's college football final, a well-deserving helmet sticker. Like we said, 41 carries, 124 yards. Now, he did do the last couple plays. He did lose 22 yards on some killing clock plays. So he was around 150 for the game. So it's even more impressive than, you look at it, you're like 41 for 124, a little over between 3 and 4 yards a carry. He was more impressive than that.
Sal, you're the stat guy. When's the last time an Army player had 40 carries in a game?
First time ever. It's a record.
Bryson Daly might have had somewhere around that number within the last year or so. But 41 is now the record for him for the academy, and that's 100. Seth, how many years of football?
130. They're in the 136th season of Army football.
It's just like
1890
it's just
to now.
incredible, man. And there is something to say for that kid to show up and just keep answering the call. I mean, situation after situation, when we needed a play, he showed up, lowered the shoulder when he needed to lower the shoulder, got out of bounds when it was like the kid has been, and I'm sure it brought him back to playing his high school days, but he seemed like he was super comfortable running that offense. And more importantly than a lot of things, you got to be comfortable running the triple option and be a threat every time you touch the ball. And, I don't know how you don't default to him next week.
Well, and just to piggyback off that, if you listen to what Coach Monken said in the postgame, the first thing that he did in describing Cole Helms was saying, this guy is a gamer. You put him in the game and he's got a nose for it. He's got a will to win and a tenacity. And to be perfectly honest, I was putting it out on Twitter during the game and a little bit today. I'm seeing shades of Bryson Daly in Cale Helms and some of the decision-making he was doing, the patience he was showing when he was running, following his blockers, waiting for the last moment to pick that spot. So that way he's getting a 3.5-yard gain instead of a half-yard gain. I think that Monken put it perfectly when he said, he's a warrior and he's a gamer, and I think that really bodes well for us.
Guys, wouldn't you say that some of the plays that they put in there were similar to the plays that Daly ran last year? And it's almost like they had an epiphany. Maybe it was during the week, maybe it was on Saturday, yesterday during the game. I don't know. We'll have to find out. But maybe they sat there and said, "Hey, let's just do the plays we did with Bryson last year." And this kid he's built similar. I think he's a little bit shorter, right, Sal? He's like 5'10".
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, okay, but he has a similar build. He has a similar mentality. I mean, I saw him in the press conference. He's kind of like Bryson Daly Jr., the next one up. And they decided, let's just go back to the plays that worked for us last year, and they worked again.
Well, I think you call plays based off your personality at quarterback, and with Hellum's taking the reign this week, I think you go with what he was comfortable with, or you go with whatever the reps and sets. And, it could have just been the game plan against Kansas State where we're going to run kind of our down your throat kind of ball and not spread you out because for whatever reason, they might have had speed on the corners or whatever. But look, there was what I loved about watching our offense against Kansas State was there was no real kind of rhythm the Kansas State defense could get in. We were running inside power. We were running outside sweep. We were running triple option. We were running counter option.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of, hey, we're going to run, dive, QB follow, triple option all in the same direction. It was very much so. Man, I mean, I hate to say this, but it reminded me of playing that Navy triple option back in the day because they just kept us guessing all the time. And I felt like that was the biggest thing about our offense was on Saturday was it just looked like that defense couldn't find the rhythm, couldn't get their keys set to where they were having, continued success after that first half. That second half, I mean, I'm pretty sure there weren't a lot of negative plays other than at the very end.
Yeah, not many. And when you can keep, Kansas State's offense off the field.
Oh, that was huge.
I mean, 13 plays they ran in the second half. 13, two drives.
Smoked.
It's just like that. Here, real quick.
That onside kick, when we got that onside kick and that defense went out there, if you guys go back and watch that defense run on the field, they are just like, oh no, this is going to be brutal.
Not again, right?
And then on the flip side is that you put the Kansas State's off. That quarterback didn't play in the fourth quarter till there was 2.5 minutes left.
Yeah,
it's just you just put them all sort of out of whack, and that was crazy. They had to call timeouts. They couldn't save their timeouts for when they needed to because their defense was smoked.
Well, what was so incredible about that, too, was after we went up 14-13, and I thought, boy, this game is really turning around, we immediately give up a kickoff return touchdown. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, well, this is where sort of the big dog comes back and, the underdog who's punching up just finally gets squashed, and it's the end. And at the time, I happened to be on the phone with my uncle. We were watching the game collectively. And he said, well, don't be so sure the way your offense has been able to stay on the field. Don't be so sure that Kansas State defense, is maybe a little bit disappointed that they only got a 3-minute break, because that's effectively what happened between the onside kick and then the kick return touchdown. The Kansas State defense collectively got 6 minutes of rest over 45 minutes of actual time, give or take. I mean, it's insane.
It was two plays. They had the kick return and then the onside kick. Those are 2 plays of rest.
By the way, that was not an onside kick. Monken said that was a squib kick.
Yeah, I got it wrong. Yeah.
It happened to hit the K-State player and bounce back to Army. So that was not an onside kick.
With respect to Coach Monken, I watched the replay on that. I think it's a try and beam the guy with the ball And if you miss, it's all good. It's a squib kick. But I don't know. That seemed it worked perfectly. It worked perfectly.
Noah Short was watching us. He says, "Great W, keep up the hard work. We appreciate." Noah Short pops on here a lot when we're doing our recaps and our podcast. We appreciate Army football players watching, and have to give Noah Short a real just great game by Noah Short. Now I got fooled because I was in and out. I was occupied, let's just to say, watching other things on TV and watching Army too, and I thought that Cale Helms threw the pass to Brady Anderson. And I had to look back and wait, wait. That was Noah Short. And that ball was like good 40 yards in the air to Brady Anderson for that big 52-yard play. That's a chunk of yardage picked up on that play. I saw Noah post maybe on social media, said he was like an 8th grade flag football quarterback or something like that back in the day. I think that's his first career pass. And, 1 for 1 for 52 is a pretty good QB rating and a very huge play. We talk about Noah in the leadership part on the field. I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, he's one of the more versatile offensive players Army's had in a long, long time. He could do just about everything you ask him on the field.
Yeah, and I think a key part of that is you got to connect with that play. So many times we call those plays and you don't execute, and then you kind of, you let the cat out of the bag, and now the team's ready for it. So love the play call there. I got to watch the game with my sons, and they were just fired up about it. So a lot of fun, great pass, and you got to execute when coach has the confidence to make that call. He's seeing something that the defense is doing. You got to execute. Great route, completely fooled the corner, and great ball by Noah.
I want to say something real quick before we get to another comment. Cody Rowley called a brilliant game. He called a brilliant game. That goal line touchdown pass from Cale Helms to Brady Anderson, I believe it was on 4th down. The pattern that they ran, Noah Short kind of took out sort of the guy that was supposed to cover Brady Anderson. They ran up, what do you call that, Steve? Like I want to say not a duo, but they ran like they were lined up right next to each other. Noah drew the defender out and left Brady Anderson to cut across the end zone wide open.
Yeah, we call that we used to call it a bingo. So if they try to rub you, just take the guy that comes to you instead of knocking each other off the other guy's man. But yeah, no, it's rub route.
That was a brilliant design play, a good design play. A lot of the plays I thought were well designed. He, like you said, Steve, he kind of you knew what kind of Army was going to run. Seth, they didn't have a lot of fullback rushing yardage in the first half. They might have had 12, 13 fullback yards.
They didn't have a lot of fullback yards the whole game.
Well, Carson Smith and Briggs Bartosh, when they needed it, pick up some pretty key yards in the second half from the fullback position. And I'm all over the place, guys. I apologize, but Army was without their starting quarterback, Dwayne Coleman. They were without their starting nose tackle, Cody Harris Miller, who's a very important piece of that defense. And then they lose Hayden Reed to an injury after he picks up that crucial 4th and 3 on a run on the left side. I give Hayden Reed the most credit on it. He put his body on the line to get that first down. He knew he was going to get hit. He knew that 3 guys were on him, and he got the ball across the sticks for the first down, and that was really key for them. And then Jake Rendina, I believe, got hurt too. He wasn't. I don't believe he was dressed for the second half. So you're going to your 3rd and 4th string fullbacks. You're going to your 2nd string quarterback. You're rotating your nose tackles, and granted, Jacob Tuiotti's played a lot. I mean, it tells you these guys were ready to go. From whether it was the first team, second team, third team, they were ready to go in this game.
Do we have updates on Reed and Rendina's conditions? I saw Rendina leave the field with sort of a little bit of a limp, or maybe just favoring one side, let's say. I actually missed in real time when Reed, I saw the play, but I had missed that he had gone out following it. I know that towards the end of the game, I was writing in my notes, Carson Smith, ? Is a name I was unfamiliar with. He did quite a bit of heavy lifting from that position. 9 rushes for 23 yards doesn't look like much, but he was there when we needed him to get 1, 2, 3 yards. he was there for blocking. Has there been an update? There were no follow-ups in Monken's post-game that I heard. Do we have any updates on Reed or Rendina?
We don't really get updates until we really do the Tuesday press conference, or unless you're at practice, and considering they have a bye week, I do know Hayden Reed was walking. It looked like an ankle injury, maybe like one of those high ankles, like an ankle sprain. I know he walked off the field at the end of the game under his own power, seemed to be okay. Is he ready to go full speed in the game tomorrow? I do not know. And Rendina, I didn't see the injury, but I just saw that he wasn't dressed, and I think it's like another like a leg, or like the leg kind of injury, ankle, leg, something. And those are your top two backs. But for Carson Smith, he played last year a little bit, right, in fourth quarter games where the games were a little blown out. Briggs Bartosh that's his first action of the season. Briggs Bartosh, I think he missed the first game because he was banged up. And Briggs Bartosh, I'm like, wait. 29. Oh yeah, Briggs Bartosh. That's right. He's also in that fullback stable. So it's just like they came through pretty well. Real quick, I want to get to some comments. We lost Steve for a little bit. I hope we get him back. Jamie Hendricks, thanks for your comment, Jamie. I don't know if you've watched or viewed before, but we appreciate you. Army came into that game with a burden and a mission. We started off a little rough, but then we locked in and played our game and got into rhythm and took a few risks that few teams would. We'll talk about that in a moment, Seth. Let's just get to a couple more of these comments. Brian from New York saying Noah Short was the leading passer as far as passing yards in this game with 52. Your wide receiver. It would have been awesome if he led them in rushing, receiving, and passing in the game. That would have been crazy.
I don't want to be too critical, but if he gets some of the air out of that ball, if he can put it on a rope, maybe catch him in stride, it would have been a touchdown. Come on, Noah.
I know.
You threw it up there, and he got caught from behind. You got to hit him in stride. I'm a little disappointed.
We'll take 52 yards.
Hey, throwing a football? I mean, throwing a football 40 yards is not easy, dude.
One thing I want to point out that Monken brought up in the press conference, we all know about it. Army is a 4-down team on almost every series, no matter where they are in the field, it seems like. We've seen them go for it. I remember the Rice game back in, I don't know, what year was it, 2019, 2018. He went for it on his own 12-yard line and didn't get it, or 13-yard line, whatever it is. He went for it 7 times on 4th down, sometimes deep in their own territory. The first time didn't work. The other 6 times did. I think it was the first time. He made it very clear this is what Army does. I don't think any other team in the country, Division I, does that. I mean, almost every single time. How many times did we punt the ball yesterday? Did we punt the ball once or twice? Right?
Yeah. I think Wagonseller was on the field at least one time. He had a rugby kick to my memory.
He had that one kick, yeah. I don't remember. Maybe there was one more, but you're talking about 7 times going for it. That someone on the same drive, of course. So, but you're not giving the opponent the ball if you get the first down, which they did 6 times, and that's amazing, and that changes everything. And I don't think Kansas State expect them to go for the touchdown. I thought they were going to say they were all ready for them to go for the 3 points, end the half 14-3. I don't think they expected anything. They looked like they were totally lost out there. And their coaching staff, when I saw them on ESPN, they looked like they were lost. Like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Now everybody knows what Army's about, so I assume they're going to change things. I didn't see Kansas State change anything in the second half. They kept 11 people in the box, and that was perfect because then he can start fooling around and going outside and stuff. So I didn't see it. I expected them. We talked at halftime. I expected changes by them at the half.
The halftime adjustments, Seth. Your halftime adjustments.
Didn't see anything. I didn't see them try. They lined up the same way. And again, give Monken credit. Sal, we talked. Why are you going for it on 4th and 2, whatever it was in the first quarter, led to their first touchdown. And after that, he went for it every time he said in the press conference, this is Army football. We're going for it. That's a big difference. You only have to get 3 yards a carry now if you're going for it on 4th down every time, where everybody else has to get 3.5 to 4 yards a carry. It makes a difference.
Yeah. Real quick, I wanted to get to these comments. I want to talk about the offensive line. Michael Speck saying, for years, people have wondered why I was an Army fan, and last night would be my answer. Great comment there. And Jamie, once again, a 4-down team that capitalizes on the defense not having to make or break each fourth. And like you said, Seth, catches the defenders off guard at times. The offensive line did a 180. We talked to Brady Small on Zoom during the week, and Brady Small said there was a fire lit under the offensive line during practice this week. He felt like there was that it was just a little different. They had a little bit more in them during practice this week, and you showed it. I mean, for the most part, I believe it was the 5 starters. I know that Teddy Williams got a little banged up, and Tyler Lee was in there at right tackle. That's what I saw, at least watching the game. But I mean, for the most part, it was the 5 guys, and man, you can give a ton of game balls for this, right? Seth, you said there was no shortage of heroes in this game, and you can give the 5 up front for Army on the offensive line. You could put them right up there. I did a poll actually on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, who, if you could only give one game ball for this, for the win, who would you give the game ball to? And it was Cale Helms, it was Colin Madison, it was Noah Short, and it was Caleb Fortner. You're only allowed 4 choices on those X polls. I should have thrown in the offensive line somewhere in there. Cale Helms was the runaway last point, 75%, about 100 votes. But Cuthbert, offensive line play.
Well, I think it speaks. To the quality of what they did when Coach Monken, following the game, basically named the offensive line as the MVP, so to speak. I think what we saw in terms of improved execution, knowing their roles, knowing their blocking schemes, and making sure to put a hat on a hat against. And listen, Tarleton State has poured resources into football in an attempt to become FBS. They are a very quality ball club, but Kansas State is, without question, a different caliber of team. And so to see the offensive line improve the way they did, to stay disciplined, and, to fight in the trenches. There was a great question to Coach after the game that, boy, when you hold the ball for 40 minutes, it really tires out the defense, the opposing defense. How come it doesn't tire out our offense? And, of course, he gave all the credit in the world to the strength and conditioning coaches and the program they have to keep those guys fit. And he spoke to their toughness in terms of going to Beast Barracks and everything that goes along with being a West Point cadet. But he basically, he said in not so many words, if I could give the game ball to someone, it would be the offensive line. For me personally, I looked at Cale Helms as sort of the game MVP. I think that speaks for itself. I had Noah Short as MVP 1A because of what he was able to do in converting third downs, getting chunk plays, throwing 50-yard passes, on and on and on. But the offensive line, it was almost flawless, honestly. It was almost flawless. We were so overmatched in terms of size, athleticism, to be able to do what we did, to control the way that we controlled, slow, steady, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. The offensive line absolutely looked to be every bit of what they were last year.
I saw like Paolo Generali getting to that second level more often than I saw him in the opener. Those guards getting to the second level, those tackles getting out on the counters and getting out and blocking for those outside runs. They were certainly more active. Seth, your offensive line, and maybe your game. Who would have been your MVP of the game? And
I'd like to say the first half, I thought our defense kept us in the game. The score could have been 21-0 or 21-7 at the end of the first half. In the second half, it was the defense wasn't on the field much, so it was all the offense. I got to give it to Cale also. I think this kid came out of nowhere. 2 weeks ago, he was the backup. He played a little bit last week, and then, of course, came in and started this one. So he's there. I agree with Noah Short. I've been a big fan of Noah Short. I know you're listening, Noah. I've been talking about you for 3 years now, and I just think you've been, just a great addition to the West Point team. Colin Madison. The guy was everywhere. I guess they were throwing at him a lot because he seemed to be on every play. And that's great. Hey, also the kicker, Dawson, made that he made that field goal. That was crucial. You got to give the kid credit. Monken said, the kid could have been down on himself after last week. Rebounded, beautifully. So, there it is. I can't think of anybody not to give give it to. Everybody played great, and also let's give it to the coaches, like you said, great plan. They took the bull by the horns and they said we're gonna win this game. We're gonna do everything we can to win this game. Monken said something about these kids are going to go out there and die trying to win the game. That goes for the coaching staff too. They wanted to win this one. They had to win this one, and they did. After last week and after Oklahoma and Michigan and everything else that's happened to Army, they had to win this one, and they did. And kudos to everybody.
Cuthbert, before we continue, Steve, I want to get Steve's opinion. You had, you got a tip of the cap, you had the correct score. You had Army winning. You're the only one that had Army winning, and you had 24-21. So
wow.
I did. I had it on a Dawson Jones walk-off field goal, a la whatever it was, whatever bowl game against Mizzou. That is how I predicted it. I don't know. It just seemed to me that was going to happen. I have no. I don't know. I looked at the game and I thought, I feel like the offensive line is going to sort itself out as best it can relative to what we're going to be playing. That's going to solve quite a bit of our problems. I had no idea Cale Helms was going to be playing. It wasn't until I had been staying off Twitter because I was taking care of things before the game. So it wasn't until basically 5 minutes before kickoff, I sit down, I get my TV on, I got my beers, I got my notes, I'm ready to roll, and I'm on Twitter, and all of a sudden I see that Dwayne Coleman's not starting, and I thought, well, I hadn't really considered that in my prediction, but we'll see how it goes.
I was on a couple podcasts, Kansas State podcasts earlier in the week, and they were kind of a little bit concerned about this game. They thought Kansas State would win, but they thought Kansas State would give up some points. And coming into the game, didn't Kansas State allow less than 3 yards per carry? So they had a good run defense the first two games. And you're like, okay, how is that going to match up against Army? Maybe Army has to put the ball in the air to have success. They did, but they also played Army football. Steve, who was your the offensive line play, if you want to talk about that, and who would have been your game MVP?
Yeah, I mean, Helms is my MVP, but the offensive line from last week to this week, I said it all week, talking to my buddies. Everyone's like, "Yo, what's going on with Army? Like, thought they were going to be good this year, this, that, and the other." And I just said, "Look, we're going to get that O line figured out, and that O line came out, and I don't know if it was necessarily that, again, when you change quarterbacks, there's a sense of urgency that goes into, everybody immediately, because this isn't the guy that you're used to running your offense, right? This isn't the guy that you're used to leading the team. So everyone automatically gets a sense of urgency on, we got to be on our A game, and we got to make sure we're straight on that. But I also, my sons asked me, "Hey, why do they keep throwing the ball at 30? He just keeps preventing them from catching the ball and just crushing people." And I was like, "Yeah, no, he's definitely Bob." I just remember my son saying that late in the game, especially because they were like, "Why they keep throwing the ball at 30?" I'm like, I don't know. They're not learning the lesson, because he's shutting them down. So big props there on the defensive side.
Yeah,
and I just I don't think this offense works without the O-line making that jump from last week to this week. And again, you don't turn the ball over. You can't turn the ball over and win more times than not. So again, controlling the ball, controlling the clock, and then that sense of urgency the team came out with made all the difference in losing to a Tarleton State and beating a Kansas State.
Real quick before we get to the defense, Kel Helms is a guy who doesn't like. He makes the smart plays so many times on rollouts with Army quarterbacks. I'm like, why don't you just throw the ball out of bounds? Instead, they take the yardage loss. And there were a couple times I think he just threw the ball away. He got outside. He saw he couldn't pick up any yards running, and he threw the ball away. And I'm like, okay, is this what he's going to do every time he's going to drop back? But then that last drive at the end of the first half, he's starting to complete the short passes, the comfortable passes. Seth and I talked about this. You don't need the 52-yard passes on the trick plays all the time. It's nice to hit those 5 to 7 yard passes to like a Brady Anderson, to like a Noah Short, to those guys. I mean, to keep you in down and distance where you're not running off schedule, and I think that was key. That gave him a little confidence that he could throw the ball, have confidence throwing the ball. And I thought that, that was a factor. Defense, man, we got to talk about Colin Madison. I mean, now I don't know if they were direct. Here's my take on Colin Madison. 4 plays out of the last 9 in that final drive, 3 pass breakups and an interception. He was all over the place. He seems to be in the right spots. I don't know if they're necessarily throwing at him, but he's just is he reading? Steve, maybe you get a better read than I am, but he just seems to be in the right spot at the right time. He's in good position a lot. That's
also, I mean, that doesn't even count the tackles he's had as well. So out of those 9 plays, he had like 3 tackles on top of the pass breakups and the interceptions. So he was absolutely all over the place. And a couple of them could have just been positional. As far as like, a couple times there, they had that, 3rd and short, 4th and short, where they made the smart play to the sideline or to the short side of the field, get the first down. He was right there, all over them. But no, I think he's got a, again, without going back and looking at it, he's probably got, the ability to just kind of have that quick twitch, close with once that quarterback makes that decision where he thinks the guy's open, and he's just able to close in on it quickly. I also think whether, I don't really know the matchups, but it looked like they were trying to go to their big receiver during that time as well, to try to get a little mismatch potentially against him. And, he just wasn't having any of it right there. And again, I hate to keep bringing this up, but you got your second string quarterback. Your defense gets a sense of urgency, and they did not fall to the curse of, I've got to do something special, or I got to do something extra. I've got to make this play. They just played good, sound defense, kept the ball in front of them all game. And you think about it, without that kick return, it's not, that defense shut down the entire offense, other than, they didn't have a lot of reps at it. The offense wasn't on the field a lot, but the defense had a great game, giving up 13?
They only give up 1 touchdown. They only get 1 touchdown defense. So
so the defense gives up 1 touchdown, 2 field goals. You should probably win the game, and we did.
That was on a short field. That touchdown. That was on a short field. Remember that?
Well, and it was 4th down. It was a 32-yard pass. Yeah. Listen, beautifully thrown ball, beautifully caught ball. On the replay, I thought to myself, well, if he doesn't catch that, we very well may have been called for pass interference. It was good. That was well covered, maybe a little too well. So, I mean, credit to them for getting that touchdown. Yeah. But apart from that, it's, you're looking at 2 field goals. This was the bend, don't break offense. The fact that they scored a 32-yard touchdown on a 4th down, credit to them, they scored it. But in theory, that is the bend, don't break defense. It just happened to be that they were at the 32, little too far for a field goal, little too close for a punt. So they said, the heck with it, we'll go for it. I will say, Colin Madison, obviously, defensive MVP with the way that he finished the game, not just the interception, but the other plays. But there was one play that I pointed out when it happened, and I just wanted to call back to it. It's senior captain Caleb Fortner. The first drive of the game, Kansas State is marching, and they get down. They're in the Army red zone. It's first down. I can't remember what they were. Let's say they were at the 20. Let's say they get stopped for no gain. On second down, they have a 9-yard run. It's now 3rd and 1 from the Army, give or take 11 or 12. I don't remember exactly. And Caleb Fortner steps up and delivers a 1-yard loss to their running back, forcing them to kick a field goal on the first drive of the game. I think this is a really pivotal play in the game because if they convert that first down or they score that touchdown, right? The game starts, we kick the ball to them, and they go down easy peasy, a tight 3.5 minutes, put it in the end zone for a touchdown. Then the rest of the game has a different tone. The Kansas State offense feels a little bit differently. Now, I don't like to give up 3 points in the first drive, but I think that play was really, really important in helping to establish the tone that the Army defense was going to be doing the classic bend, don't break.
Yeah, especially when you're in hostile territory, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, you're playing away. They come down, shove it down your throat for 60 yards, and then you just say, "Hey, enough's enough." You know, aren't that serious? So, I agree with you there. It's a completely different game if they come out the gate and score a touchdown there.
How about Caleb breaking up that pass in the end zone too? That would have been a touchdown to the tight end. He had that big pass, a break up in the end zone. Andon Thomas was his usual all over the place. Caleb Fortner had a really good game. You're not going to see it in tackle totals. If you're just a stat person and you're looking at tackle totals for this game, you're not going to see it. Kansas State only had 44 plays, I believe, or something like that, that. But just you look at the effort. You look at, like I said, Casey Larkin with that big hit that he had set the tone. Say, hey, we're not going anywhere. We're going to play Army football. We're going to hit you hard and come back. You try it again. And I will give kind of my unsung hero to Jacob Tuioti, who had to start at nose tackle in place of Cody Harris Miller. You didn't hear Jacob Tuioti's name because he was doing his job. He was occupying. He was taking on those 2 blockers. And him and that defensive line was holding the line so the inside linebackers can make the plays, so Casey Larkin can come up and make those plays from the secondary, so Colin Matson could be in the right positions and Gavin Shields could be around the ball. I give that defensive line, I don't think they get a ton of credit. Jack Latour is kind of does his job, but very quietly. Jack Bosom had to start his first career start, a sophomore. Probably not many Army people know about Jack Bosom. He was pretty steady. Nothing too spectacular, but just they did their jobs, and I think that's the key. Steve, we hear the and Seth too. We hear the 111 said a lot, right? Just do your job, and that's what the Army defense did. The guys.
Well, yeah, I think the. The O-line and D-line is just an interesting animal, but they get loved up on by the linebackers and the safeties, along with the offensive linemen get loved up by the quarterbacks and the running backs quite a bit. We as the fans like to talk about the guys making the plays because that's what we like to see. But I assure you, the offensive line and the defensive line are getting their love from the guys that they want to hear it from because. 100% Army football in general, but Army football, it's won at the line of scrimmage. You can't do anything without the Bubbas. And that's football in general, but more importantly, that's Army football. And we're going to continue to love on the skilled players and the guys making the plays. But it's the D-line putting pressure on the quarterback and preventing those lanes for him scrambling. And it's the O-line opening up those gaps and those holes for Helms to run 41 times for 150 yards. Again, we don't win the game without those 2 sets of groups. And they're going to get all the praise in the world from the guys that are making those plays for them.
Yeah, let's also add that we only had 2 penalties. Penalties are game changers, especially a holding or something like that or a pass interference. But talking about the lines, the offensive line, I don't think they were called for a holding penalty, right? They weren't. And also no sacks. They didn't get any sacks on Army. That's,
threw the ball 12 times, so you're not going to get, sacks.
Well, but even still,
it's irrelevant. It's a relevant stat.
But we had no holding calls, and that makes
holdings are important. Yeah.
No, we did get a holding call.
I thought we did have one.
Yeah,
maybe
last
it was
third
right
down of our 7th drive.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, one holding call.
But yeah, no, I mean, hey, Seth, you said it, man. I mean, you're not committing penalties, you're not turning the ball over. Army's going to be hard to beat when we're winning at the line of scrimmage. And that's just how Army continues to win. And it's important that we play disciplined football, and it's important that we hold on to the football. So yeah, 2 penalties, and especially when our offense. I mean, how many plays did our offense run yesterday or
In the
Saturday?
80s. In the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 2. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, we just want to get Thomas Hellcamp's comment here that much more discipline, not putting themselves in bad positions, both of the offensive and defensive lines. We wanted to get John Madison here. He said they appreciate the credit that Collins got. And it's important to note that the D-line look at the hands high in the passing lane, which caused a bad throw. It takes a village. You're right. I saw a lot of hands up on the defensive line. Great point, John, on that one. It takes everybody. Want to say on Colin Madison today, he was named to the Pro Football Focus College Team of the Week. That's all schools. He's one of 2 safeties, so he was one of the top 2 safeties in the country. How he was graded, how his play was graded. That is a great honor for Colin. And we didn't really talk a lot about his story. You know, he was from Oklahoma, about 4.5 hours away from Manhattan. His grandma's a big Kansas State fan. I believe she got her master's from there. His dad was born at Fort Riley because his grandfather was a bird colonel in the Army. He went to camp at Kansas State. He goes to camp at Kansas State. He sees the facility. They give him the tour, and then he gets a letter. You know, Kansas State, I guess, didn't have to send him this letter, but the Kansas State said, you know what, we're going in another direction. We're recruiting another safety. So, I mean, I think he had this game circled on his calendar. He told me since high school when he committed to Army, he knew that they were going to play Kansas State his senior year, and to have that kind of finish, and you can't write anything better than that, Steve. When you have that story and you have that finish, I felt really good for a kid because, to be honest, at the beginning of the season, guys, we were talking about who's the first-year starting senior who's going to make an impact on this defense. There's usually somebody, right? There's usually somebody that steps up. Well, guess what? Through 2 games, Colin Madison's doing a pretty good job of stepping up in his first year starting for Army.
I think his dad just sent us a note here.
I read that, Seth.
Hmm.
I also read chip meets shoulder, he says. There you go. Yeah. Steve, were you going to say? I don't know if you were going to say.
I was going to say, yeah, no. We had a bunch of the boys from Fort Riley, all my buddies stationed at Fort Riley, and then all the guys at Leavenworth made the trip. Probably about 30 or 40 Army football players who made the trip up to the game that were able to make it, and it's just definitely definitely a chip on his shoulder, I'm sure. Growing up around the area, especially with Grams being a Kansas State fan, wants to make sure she's an Army fan after this weekend. So,
did you guys notice how quiet that stadium was in the second half? I mean,
I just saw all this. I just saw all the sad panda looks on all the faces on TV every time they pan over after the kick return. They were just like, oh God.
So how much did Army get? Do we know how much they got for this trip?
People say like 1.1 million.
Yeah, I saw 1.175.
1.2 basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boy,
so I also saw that. So after last week and this week, we broke even. So I don't know.
Nah, you're not playing Tarleton State that much to come to Mikey Stadium.
Yeah.
I think it was 400,000, wasn't it?
I saw 250, but I don't have the contracts in front of me. I've never seen any of those contracts. That's a question from Tom Theodokis, the new Army AD, next time we see him, Seth. And
who got a game ball yesterday, I saw.
I know we had all these players that I'm sure they handed out some other game balls, but they give the AD his first Army road football game. I guess his first win as an athletic director, Army football win. He gets it. He gets a game ball. Pin drop, and I guess that's what James is talking about. With the crowd. I don't know, when we have video. Larry Pickett Senior did some really good video, and I posted one of Hayden Reed where he picked up that 4th and 3. Stadium's pretty loud. In that.
Second half was quiet. First half was loud.
And if you
watch the second half,
you watch that broadcast. I turned the TV on just long enough to see the tail end of whatever it was that was ending just before the game started. I don't know, tennis or something. And so, they come in on the stadium. We are at that point maybe 6 minutes from kickoff. Welcome, Manhattan, Kansas, whatever family field, and it's shooting the student section, and they're all in there and they're rocking and they're doing whatever the Kansas State fans do. I don't know, but they're all in there. And I just remember sitting there looking at it and just thinking to myself, this is gonna be a tough one. This is a lot of people. This is going to be very loud. This is a motivated fan base that is going to be cheering their team on. And for us to completely silence such a large stadium, such a large contingent, really, really does my heart well.
This is just a really incredible win for Army. If you check our YouTube channel out, Larry Pickett shot the alma mater and then the players leaving the field, and you see how just excited, pumped up they are for the win. If you check out our YouTube channel, we have also Jeff Monken's press conference up there, and a few other things where we'll have the recap will go right on if you want to rewatch all our great analysis here on the 24-21 win, Army's win over Kansas State. Now they have a bye week, guys. So, I mean, here's a question for you, how we'll close the podcast. Is it a good week for a bye week right now after Kansas State? A pretty physical game. The Tarleton State was a pretty physical game. You have some guys banged up, or would you rather have Army playing this week?
Well, I think the biggest thing is who's going to be the starting quarterback come following this. So they're going to go back to the film. They're going to go back to sets and reps in practice because, now we have, 2 games where now there's film on these quarterbacks on how they handled certain situations. But, you got to make consistent good reads during practice every week to make sure you're ready for the game. So I think it's a good time to have this bye in order to figure out who's going to lead us the rest of the season, and then we got to make a decision and go with it, and not keep going back and forth. We just got to, coaches just got to do, make the decision that's best for the team, and like you will, and we'll go from there.
I think they will go with, they'll make a decision on which quarterback to go with and stick with the quarterback, as long as, the results are there. And I think this is a good time for the break. We have some injured guys. The American starts against North Texas in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. So a week in between is a good time. I think we have a second bye someplace in the season, right? It's in early November.
Maybe before the Air Force game. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, we got before Air Force.
Yeah. Okay. So so it's late October. So you have 2 buys. This is why not? It's a good time for a buy. We got the American starting, as I said, and a couple of guys were banged up. Kansas State is still a physical team, and Tarleton State, beat us up a little bit. So why not? Let's take it. And then we, as Steve said, he's off here again, but it gives us a chance to figure out who is going to be the starting quarterback. And that's something we're going to have to, wait. We're looking forward to finding out. I mean, I have my pick. I'm not going to say who, but it's up to Monken, obviously, and his coaching staff. Well, it's going to be an interesting battle. That's a good battle. That's a good.
Yeah, before I get to Cuthbert, we saw Dwayne Coleman warming up, I guess, on TV. His ankle was pretty heavily taped. He had a pretty heavily taped ankle, and I think it's just Monken said, like, in the overtime of the Tarleton State game, a 100% Cale Helms over a slightly banged up Dwayne Coleman. He had to go with the healthier guy. So now Cale Helms took. I mean, if you count the number of hits Cale Helms took in this game, I mean, you're over 50. I'm guessing he ran the ball 41 times. He's probably getting hit once or twice every time he runs the football, but he has a week to, heal up a little bit. Cuthbert, what's your opinion on the bye week so early?
I think this is the perfect opportunity for a bye week. I think in theory, this would have been a week 1. We're going to face our easiest opponent. Week 2, we're going to face, arguably our toughest opponent. That way we can really see where we are going into the bye week, and we can target what we need to be working on. As I mentioned before we went on the air, if you told me we were going to go 1-1 in these 2 games, I certainly would not have picked it to be this 1-1 the way we got there. Honestly, I think that's better, because I think that the fire from the Tarleton State loss will burn longer and brighter and hotter than the loss from potentially a Kansas State defeat. And the fact that we beat Kansas State means that our guys know that they can hang basically with anybody else who's at least on our schedule at this point. We can hang with anybody else. So I think this is the perfect opportunity. D. Cole's banged up. Rendina is banged up. Reed is banged up. I'm sure there's more than that. Those are just the ones offhand. And then to what you were saying, Seth, in terms of who is going to be QB1, I think it would be very interesting to see if maybe we went back to a QB room type situation, a la Christian Anderson, Jabari Laws, Tyler. I think we're the three where we had about a season and a half where basically we were rotating as needed. And it really worked with those three guys. They were all selfless. They were all great leaders. Presumably, those are the characters of Dwayne Coleman and Cale Helms as well. I couldn't tell you. I will say, and this is not my personal opinion on who I think should be QB1, but I think there's a very real chance that Jeff Monken stood on the sideline last night and he looked out on that field in the exact same way he felt watching Cody Worley call plays under center against Coastal Carolina. And that got the gears turning in his head. We need to go back under center. I think he might have looked out there last night and saw Cale Helms and saw him playing, saw a gamer who was making decisions the same way that the number 6 Heisman last year was making decisions. And I think Jeff Monken has found himself his QB1. And I'm not saying that's the wrong decision. I'm just saying I wouldn't at all be surprised that Coach was standing on the sideline, looking out there, watching him run that offense, make those plays, put it on his back like that. And he might be thinking to himself, I've found my QB1.
Man, we really appreciate all the comments tonight. It was certainly a lot of engagement from the people watching. We'll get to a few more, and then we'll close this out. William De Los Santos says that Tarleton State is 3-0 now in FCS and won 59-3 yesterday. And is now ranked 3 in the nation. So, and we talked, Seth and Cuthbert, we talked about this a little bit about, hey, they're a FCS championship contender, Tarleton State, no doubt. Let's go to I want to get Richard
They've given up 3 points. Besides the Army game, they've given up 3 points in the other 2 games. They shut out Portland State. I don't know who they played yesterday, but the guys said they won 59-3. Maybe this team is just really good. Maybe Tarleton State is just a top team. Obviously it is. They ranked 3 in the FCS, so I mean they're obviously a good FCS team.
I was listening to another Academy podcast this week, and they were almost like poo-pooing Tarleton State. It's like Tarleton State would probably finish mid of the pack in the American. They're probably like a middle American team, and who knows? They're not like just they're not a throwaway FCS team. They're not a VMI, with all due respect. They're not like a Patriot League school. They have athletes on their team, and I think if the other service academies play Tarleton State this year, they would have their hands full. Look at Navy. Navy had their hands full with UAB yesterday. Navy didn't have a cakewalk against UAB yesterday.
UAB scored 50 points in their first game, so they may be a little bit improved.
There's nobody.
We don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't able to be on the Tarleton State wrap-up show last week with the two of y'all. I'm sorry that I missed it, but I agree with you completely, Seth. It's been said in other places. I've said it. A lot of people have said it. I think as Tarleton State is comprised and being coached at this moment, I think they are beating the bottom half of most G5 conferences. And when I see what Tulane did say to Northwestern, I think to myself, I think Tarleton State might be beating Northwestern. I think Tarleton State might be beating Stanford. Some of these supposed P4 schools, and I don't say that as though we shouldn't be upset about our loss to them. We gave that game away. Yeah. 2 red zone interceptions, 2 missed field goals. So but they're a quality ball club. So I don't know.
Well, they beat a team that beat Kansas State. Okay, so. I mean, think about that. Okay.
Very good point. Good point, Seth.
They beat it. We don't know how good Tarleton State's going to be. Well, we're going to find out. I mean, they don't play anybody, any other FBS teams. So, they're going to be, in their league, and their league is a new league. But I got to mention one more thing. The American has some really good teams in it this year. South Florida's ranked 15. They have 2 upset victories against top 25 teams. Temple 2-0, Navy 2-0, Memphis 2-0, Tulane 2-0. North Texas, I don't know who they played yet. I'll look it up right now. But they're 2-0. I don't think they beat anybody special, but The league is a little bit stronger than it was last year. Especially with South Florida joining the. We don't play them, right? We don't play South Florida.
No, not this year.
No.
But Navy does, it's going to be. It shows that this league is getting. They're getting a little bit better, at least so far. I'm looking to see.
Even Temple's 2-0. Now, granted, they've beaten UMass and Howard, which are not the stiffest competition, but they're putting up 49, 50 points a game. That's what you're supposed to do when you play teams like UMass and Howard.
Evans Simon is pretty good.
UMass lost to somebody really bad yesterday.
I want to get to Richard Roberts' comment. I think Coach Muckin hit it that the job is Cale Helms for now, and we will need 2 to 3 quarterbacks this year to survive out there. Well, that would be then a more healthier Dwayne Coleman. And that will either be Zach Mundell or one of the freshmen. I know Bryson Luter did travel with the team, so he was probably either QB 2 or 3 yesterday if needed. Probably Zach Mundell was next. Maybe Luter was. If anything happened to Cale Helms. Cale Helms played every snap, 41 carries, like we said. What a game for Cale Helms. What a game for Army. And just a whole team effort was needed to get past Kansas State 24-21. Again, we really appreciate everyone that's been commenting, everybody that's watching this recap. Over 600 people now are watching this recap. So thank you so much. Check out Black Knight Nation, Seth's game story, which was well written by Seth. Went through everything, all the heroes, everything that you can imagine in the game. Check it out. That's at blackknightnation.com. Also, check out our YouTube channel, our Instagram accounts. Our social media is pretty on fire right now. So check out what we got happening. And I'm going to write my quick thoughts, story pretty soon. Hopefully get it out by tomorrow or Tuesday. And also maybe get some snap counts in since it's a bye week. I can catch up on some snap counts and that kind of stuff. Cuthbert, what you got cooking during the bye week?
Not going to have to carve out any time away from my wife and daughter, so that'll be very nice. In the meantime, anybody who's watching this, who's interested in my take on the American Conference writ large, I do a weekly video for another account that comes out Friday night, Saturday morning. It's not so much Army, though I am a big homer for Army in it. I talk about the American top to bottom. It's a quick, tight 10, 12 minutes. So anybody who wants to do that. And in the meantime, go Army beat the bye week.
There you go. Thanks a lot, everybody. Seth Wendelson of Black Knight Nation, Cuthbert of Sidelines Army. We appreciate Steve Anderson also joined us. Appreciate his insight, former 2-year Army captain. I'm Sal Internado. We'll see you soon on the Black Knight Nation podcast. Thank you.
Go Army.